The story begins in the year 2034 in South Korea, where the entire country has fallen into the grip of a deadly disease. This virus is 10 times more dangerous than COVID-19, killing thousands of people. The situation has become so severe that the military is even shooting birds to keep them from carrying the virus across international borders. People are coughing up blood in the streets, vehicles are crashing into each other, and complete chaos has taken over the city. The outbreak is no longer spreading slowly, it is consuming an entire nation. As the death toll continues to rise, there is no room left to bury the bodies. The government orders them to be piled inside a stadium and burned like heaps of garbage. This is the peak of the outbreak. But to understand how everything reached this point, we have to go back several weeks. Every disaster has a beginning, even when nobody recognizes it at first. A few weeks earlier, in Hong Kong, preparations are underway to smuggle several undocumented immigrants into the South Korean city of Bundang inside a shipping container. When the supervisor arrives to inspect the container, he notices one man coughing violently. Even after seeing this, he simply says that everything looks fine and clears the container to be shipped to South Korea. One careless decision quietly sets an unstoppable chain of devastation into motion. On the other side of Bundang, a woman named Kim is driving when she suddenly loses control of her car. The vehicle crashes through a construction site and falls into a deep excavation pit. A rescue crew arrives within minutes, but the car is wedged so tightly that only one rescuer can climb down at a time. Kang Ji-gu carefully lowers himself into the pit, knowing that even the slightest wrong move could send both the car and Kim plunging even deeper. One wrong move could send both of them crashing into the pit below. The situation is incredibly dangerous, but thanks to his experience and quick judgment, Kang Ji-gu safely reaches Kim and manages to pull her out without anyone getting hurt. After the successful rescue, he walks over to speak with her, but she simply ignores him, climbs into the ambulance, and leaves without saying a word. Sometimes, the greatest rescue earns nothing more than complete silence in return. Later that night, Kim calls Kang Ji-gu and asks him to meet her at the same accident scene. He gets excited, thinking she wants to thank him for saving her life. But when he arrives, he realizes she only called him because her bag had fallen into the excavation pit during the crash. The request leaves him disappointed because retrieving it goes against protocol. Even so, after Kim leaves, he climbs back into the pit with the help of one of his co-workers and brings the bag back safely. Despite the rules, he quietly chooses compassion over protocol once again. After checking the bag, Kang Ji-gu finds an ID card inside and realizes that Kim is a doctor. Just then, the phone inside the bag starts ringing. He hesitates for a moment before answering it. On the other end, he hears the voice of Kim's daughter, Mi-ru. After talking with her for a short time, Kang Ji-gu agrees to meet her after school. One unexpected phone call quietly connects two complete strangers together forever. Meanwhile, two brothers named Byung-ki and Byung-woo make their way to the shipping container carrying the undocumented immigrants. When they open the container, they're stunned to discover that everyone inside is dead except for one man. The container is filled with a horrifying stench of decomposing bodies. Confused by what they're seeing, they record the entire scene on their phone and load the lone survivor into their truck. The only survivor carries something far deadlier than anyone can possibly imagine. Later, while one of the brothers goes inside a convenience store to grab a few supplies, the survivor takes advantage of the opportunity and escapes. His name is Monsai. As Byung-ki walks back outside, he spots Monsai running away. Byung-woo immediately chases after him, but after a short pursuit, he gives up and instead takes his brother to a nearby medical clinic. The escape lasts only moments, but its consequences have already begun. At the clinic, the doctor gives Byung-woo some routine medication and tells him to get plenty of rest, but he can't stop coughing, and with every cough, tiny droplets from his mouth spread onto everyone around him. At the same time, Kang Ji-gu goes to Mi-ru's school to meet her. Just like her mother, she barely says a word to him. She simply takes her mother's bag along with Kang Ji-gu's business card and walks away. The infection keeps spreading long before anyone realizes what's happening. On his drive home, Kang Ji-gu notices several people on a bus parked nearby, coughing violently. It's another sign that the virus is slowly spreading across the entire city of Bundang. When Kim gets home and sees her bag, she's overjoyed. She hugs Mi-ru tightly and thanks her. Every ordinary moment quietly moves the city one step closer to disaster. As the mother and daughter are talking, Kim receives an urgent call from the hospital. An unexpected emergency has come in, and she's needed immediately. She leaves Mi-ru with her grandmother and rushes to the hospital. When she arrives, everyone is visibly frightened. She heads straight to the emergency room, where Byung-woo is now in critical condition. He's coughing up large amounts of blood, and red blotches have spread across his entire body. The hospital finally witnesses the terrifying face of the unknown outbreak. Kim tells her senior doctor that she believes it's avian influenza, but he doesn't agree with her diagnosis. Soon, the doctors discover the video of the shipping container on Byung-woo's phone, showing it packed with dead bodies. That's when they realize the virus originated there. They immediately begin questioning Byung-ki, but he refuses to say a single word and remains completely silent. The horrifying truth is finally staring everyone directly in the face. Suddenly, an emergency alarm echoes through the hospital. Panic takes over Byung-ki, and despite the doctors warning him to stay back, he forces his way into the emergency room. Inside, he finds that his brother has already died. Unable to control his emotions, he collapses over his brother's body and breaks down in tears, getting his brother's blood all over his hands. Grief quickly becomes another deadly path for the virus to spread. Consumed by anger and heartbreak, he touches several doctors with his blood-covered hands before hospital staff finally restrain him. At the same time, Mi-ru wanders outside the house and is nearly hit by a car, but Mon-sai, the survivor from the shipping container, pulls her to safety just in time. Since he's starving, Mi-ru gives him something to eat. While they're talking, Mon-sai warns her to stay away because he's sick, but she keeps talking to him anyway. Moments later, he's hit by a violent coughing fit and asks Mi-ru to bring someone to help him. Without realizing it, Mi-ru steps dangerously close to the growing outbreak. Mi-ru goes to get help, but before anyone arrives, Mon-sai has already disappeared. By now, thousands of people across the city have been infected, and hospitals are overflowing with patients. Around the same time, the country's leading medical experts gather for an emergency meeting. After a lengthy discussion, they conclude that the deadly virus is a new strain of H5N1. Anyone exposed to the virus now has only hours left to survive. The doctors determine that anyone infected dies within 36 hours. They urgently warn the government that Bundang must be placed under quarantine immediately, or the virus could spread across the country and eventually the entire world. Meanwhile, Kang Ji-gu takes Kim to a supermarket where they have lunch together and open up about their personal lives, gradually becoming close friends. Normal life shatters before anyone can truly understand the danger ahead. Just as they're about to leave the supermarket, panic suddenly erupts everywhere. People begin coughing up blood, collapsing unconscious, and chaos spreads through the building. Kang Ji-gu saves a woman who falls on an escalator, but in the confusion, Mi-ru disappears from his sight. The outbreak spreads so rapidly that hospitals and communication systems become overwhelmed. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, government officials and medical leaders order an immediate lockdown, while the top doctors decide to continue their research in Seoul. As the research teams prepare to leave for Seoul, Kim tells the doctors she'll find her daughter first and then join them. She immediately calls Mi-ru, but Kang Ji-gu answers the phone and explains everything that's happening inside the supermarket. Without wasting a second, Kim rushes there, only to find the entire situation spinning completely out of control. Fear spreads through the crowd faster than anyone can stop it. People begin looting stores and fighting each other, triggering a massive riot throughout the supermarket. The military arrives to restore order as Kim and Kang Ji-gu desperately search for Mi-ru in the middle of the chaos. After an intense search, they finally find her, and the three of them escape the supermarket just before the security shutters slam shut. Every second now decides who escapes and who gets left behind. Kim and Mi-ru make it to the airport and successfully clear the security screening. But as they head toward the final departing flight, Mi-ru suddenly starts coughing, and they're immediately denied permission to board. That same night, the Korean military, together with US forces and the KCDC, enforces a strict lockdown across the entire city and moves all residents into quarantine camps. Meanwhile, in Seoul, government officials meet with both domestic and international medical experts and decide that every citizen must be tested so infected and uninfected people can be separated. The city is officially sealed as the invisible enemy keeps moving forward. The plan was simple. Anyone who showed no symptoms of the virus would be released, while everyone who tested positive would be moved to a separate treatment ward. Meanwhile, Kim returns to the camp in Bundang with her daughter. She quickly realizes that the situation has gotten much worse. The camp is so overcrowded that people can barely move, let alone walk through the streets. Some people are already coughing violently, while others are terrified that they'll be infected next. They are then taken into the examination room. Every passing minute pushes the overwhelmed camp closer to complete collapse. The next morning, under government orders, soldiers climb onto the rooftops of buildings and begin shooting every bird they see to stop the virus from spreading any farther. Even desperate measures can't erase the growing fear gripping everyone inside. Meanwhile, camp officials finally locate Mon-sai. After examining him, the doctors are stunned to discover that his body has somehow developed immunity against the virus, allowing him to survive the infection. The camp officials then ask him to work on developing an antibody because she is the only doctor at the camp who truly understands the virus. A few hours later, Kim successfully extracts the antibody from Mon-sai's body. But the moment she suggests injecting it directly into a patient, her senior doctors immediately stop her from doing it. One breakthrough suddenly offers hope, but strict rules stand in its way. A little while later, as Kim secretly tries to sneak her sick daughter out of the facility, 2 quarantine guards track them down using her tag number, 2066. They tell Kim that her daughter's test has come back positive and that they've been sent to take her away. Kim is devastated because she's about to be separated from her daughter. Before leaving, the guards tell her that Miru's new tag number is 206, and then they take her into the infected zone. A mother's worst nightmare suddenly becomes impossible for her to escape. A short time later, one of Kang Ji-gu's friends spots Miru and cleverly manages to sneak her back out of the infected zone. Meanwhile, Kim rushes to the area where Monsai is being held. Even though she knows the health authorities have forbidden anyone from injecting the antibody directly into a patient, she still decides to use it on Miru because her condition has become critical. Hope survives only because someone is finally willing to break the rules. Kim begins the antibody transfusion between Monsai and her daughter, but just then, the guards burst into the room. They knock Kim unconscious and take the infected Miru away. At the same time, Kang Ji-gu sees the guards taking Miru into the infected zone, so he follows them. Along the way, he spots Miru's headband on the ground. Moments later, he reaches a horrifying sight where thousands of infected bodies are being wrapped in plastic, and some of those people aren't even dead yet. What waits beyond that checkpoint is more terrifying than anyone imagined. Kang Ji-gu is horrified when he sees a massive crane lifting piles of dead bodies and dumping them into a stadium, where an enormous pit has already been prepared to burn the corpses. He realizes that if he doesn't act fast, the crane could pick up Miru and throw her into the burning pit before he can reach her. Every second brings Miru closer to a fate no child deserves. Suddenly, towering flames erupt and begin consuming the piles of bodies. Just then, Kang Ji-gu hears a familiar ringtone and instantly recognizes it as Miru's phone. He sprints toward the sound and discovers Miru wrapped in plastic, still alive. At the same time, inside the quarantine camp, an officer shoots an infected soldier, sending the crowd into a furious panic as people rush out of the camp. One desperate rescue exposes a horrifying truth hidden from everyone. As they flee, the people see Kang Ji-gu carrying a little girl away from the burning pile of bodies, making them realize that infected people are being burned alive. With the crowd spiraling out of control, the medical staff decide to evacuate to another location. They ask Kim to come with them, but she refuses, saying she has to find her daughter. As they head outside, Byung-ki spots Monsai and attacks him with a knife to avenge his brother's death. Revenge and survival collide as chaos completely overwhelms the entire camp. Meanwhile, Kim desperately searches the camp for her daughter, but she can't find her anywhere. Heartbroken, she finally leaves with the medical staff. Back in Seoul, the president realizes that the situation in Bundang has reached a critical level. One of his advisors, Snyder, tells him that the infected should be forced out so they can't cross the border. Even so, the president orders the military to hold their position until an antibody can be developed. Snyder and the vice president are unhappy with his decision. The outbreak becomes a battle of politics as much as survival. Because Byung-ki stabbed Monsai in the stomach, he loses too much blood and dies inside the ambulance. With his death, everyone's hope of developing the antibody seems to disappear. When the vice president learns what happened, he secretly orders the military to stop civilians from crossing into Seoul, leading to a deadly shootout that kills many innocent people. Hope fades again just when the city needs it the most. Meanwhile, Miru begins feeling much better and is even able to speak again, proving that the antibodies are working. On the other hand, Kim rushes to see her daughter, but the soldiers stop her. She repeatedly tells them that her daughter carries the cure for the virus inside her. Finally, one of the soldiers takes her to the command base, where he arranges for her to speak directly with the president. One mother's determination may become everyone's last chance for survival. Out on the road, a man overhears Kang Ji-gu saying that an antibody could be developed from Miru's blood, so he secretly follows them. When Miru is left alone, he takes her into an isolation room and tries to draw her blood. Fortunately, Kang Ji-gu and his partner arrive just in time, and a brutal fight breaks out between the three of them. One desperate decision turns an ordinary rescue into a deadly fight. In the end, Kang Ji-gu kills the man, but his best friend is critically injured during the fight. Meanwhile, Kim tells the president that her daughter has completely fought off the virus, and that a vaccine can be developed from her blood. The fate of thousands now depends on a single little girl's blood. After hearing this, the president orders his soldiers to stop firing, but Snyder refuses to agree with the decision and orders them to keep shooting. A short time later, Kim reaches the border and sees Miru standing with the infected people. She runs toward her, but as she approaches the containment line to reach her daughter, she is shot. Even flying bullets cannot stop a mother's desperate attempt to save her child. Before the soldiers can fire again, Miru shields her mother with her own body and begs the soldiers to stop shooting. Seeing this, every soldier's heart melts and they all step back. Even the infected people find new hope and begin running toward the border. On the other side, when Snyder realizes realizes the soldiers have stopped firing, he orders the Air Force to launch an airstrike. One final command threatens to wipe out every remaining survivor below. At that moment, the president steps in and orders his forces to shoot down any fighter jet that attempts to enter Bundang. After the immediate threat of the virus is brought under control, the president goes live and promises everyone that he will find a cure for the virus, no matter what it takes. Hope finally rises where fear had ruled every single desperate moment. Afterward, Miru is sent to Seoul so a vaccine can be developed from her blood. Kim and Kang Ji-gu remain behind, and a few hours later, a reporter announces that the vaccine has been successfully developed. The nightmare finally begins to end as humanity wins its hardest battle. The first doses of the vaccine will be given to the people of Bundang. Some wounds don't bleed, they simply become part of who you are. If stories that leave you thinking long after they're over are your kind of stories, subscribe to KTS Mosan. Now ask yourself, would you still be the same?